It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So, we're down to a working Stanley 130 block plane. Now, the previous video, I think we were talking about just how bad the rust and corrosion was on this and cleaning it up. Since then, I've tried to do as much cleanup as I possibly can. It is a very difficult item to clean because these two bars here on the body that actually allow you to provide the pressure when you tighten up this are heavily corroded into the body. I've tried to actually remove the screws, but they're just not budging and I'm damaging them. So rather than trying to force it any further, I've just left them in place and cleaned around it best I could. Now, the actual grooves in here, my fingers are really fat and they don't get in there very well. So what I've had to do is I shaved down a bit of scrap and then I've used that with sandpaper on it to get in there to actually try and clean up as best I could. Look, at the end of the day, I'm getting these tools to work with them, not to be an absolute perfectionist and restore them to, you know, keeper collecting quality. So I'm not too fussed that there is still going to be some rust, but I've given it a liberal douse of WD-40 to try and reduce further corrosion over time. The other places that I could access, I've cleaned up and everything else as best I could. I've leveled out the actual face. There is a lot of corrosion here that I couldn't really get to. So that's not going to be a good flat surface, but on this side I did. And since then I've also sharpened the blade. Now you can see these little spindly bits down here. That's actually with me playing with this to adjust it to cut. So I've got my little hammer here, little peen hammer, and of course that's just a lighter version of this Warrington woodworking hammer that I've got here. Well, slightly different head obviously, but this is adjusted by tapping the back of it. So right now I've got it set very fine, and you can see it's just taking off these tiny little slivers, and the, I suppose, lower angle, because this is a bevel up blade, works really well to get these small fine shavings and work with tricky or hard to work with grain. This blade has a little bit of a camber to it, so the middle is more protruding than the edge, and that allows you to take passes without as much catching on a hard edge. But what that does result with, and if you can kind of see that maybe on the reflection of this as I tilt this back and forth, you will end up with sort of undulating undulating channels of it, because it's deeper in the middle and wider on the side. A smoothing plane where the blade is actually flat all the way across will actually give you a better result in making it nice and smooth. But then you could also switch over to using a scraper plane. Too many things over there. Something like that, that will give you that much smoother end finish. So, what am I going to do with this right now? I can show you that you can do a deeper pass by tapping on the back here. So this is much heavier. I was just doing light adjustments, but a light tap with this will send that blade forward a lot deeper by comparison to this one, which it might be, yeah, a lot harder to work with and much bigger, deeper cuts on that, to the point where it's really probably too deep. And of course, not having that front handle to help drive that is also making it a challenge. Now, the reason why I wanted to show this was because I've already got that set. So now I'm going to take this out and we're going to flip it around. So as you can see, I did sharpen it. It's got a nice shine on that. That was done by hand because of the camber. And I've done the best I can to flatten it on the back because there's a lot of that pitting, which did make it quite hard to work with. So we've cleaned up as much of that as we could get into. It's not too bad, not fantastic, but you know what, that's just how life is. So we're going to now set this at the back, and then we're going to drop this back into it. We're going to tighten it up, and we're going to try it as a bullnose. Now the bullnose, I don't want that too tight, but right now nothing's happening, blade's not protruding, so we're not going to go with the big heavy one now. We're going to just use the light one. Still nothing. It's just starting to show through now. There, we might start seeing something. Nope, not yet. Not yet. There we go. So, and you can see we can take off good size shavings. Now this is slightly wonky from me tapping it. So this side is sticking out more than that side. And how we want to adjust it is we want to tap the sides of the blade. Now if I hit this side, it's going to make the blade tilt that way, which is not what we want. We want to go that way. So we're going to hit this side to just straighten that up a bit if we can. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And of course that's going to adjust the cut now. It's much finer compared to before. We're just getting these really super fine curls because the blade depth is now slightly different, and we're just going to give that another light tap. And now we're back to those bigger, heavier shavings that we were seeing before. Yeah, so much bigger, thicker. Now, of course, what am I talking about with this being a bullnose is if I was to get a block here and butt this up like that, with this end, if I'm going up to it, the blade ends there. So there's all of that there that I can't get into, but now with this bullnose, I can get in all the way up to there, and I can still plane up to, of course, that's not efficient because I'm holding that down, but now you can see that there is just this little lip here where the end of that is, and then of course I could come in here with a chisel and then I could very carefully clean that up, just like doing that. So that's how the bullnose works for the 130, and I've just shown you also how these style of planes can be adjusted. So that was a lot of fun getting this, and a lot of frustration at the same time not being able to get these bars out so I could clean it. But you know what? It cuts, it shaves, it works, it comes apart, and as far as a user goes, a cheap, simple user, this is a great little plane to add to my slowly growing collection. So I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I'll probably try and get around to making some kind of handle that I can sit on top of there. There is a thread to it, but I doubt I'm going to be able to make anything that fits that, so it might just have to be a friction fit type of arrangement that will just screw on as firm as I can. Maybe get the size of the hole to be very close to that, and then just you know, crank it on. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that was a good couple of sessions to make this back into a solid user. You can see I've scrubbed that as best I could so that at least the front part of that is a nice flat bed again. Well, hopefully that was a little bit of enlightenment for you on the 130 plane from somebody who is very inexperienced with all of this as part of my own woodworking journey. So if you do get a chance to pick up one of these from, you know, a market, online, antique shop, you know, wherever it is, or if you get handed one of these down by a grandparent or something like that, or your dad, and you're curious on how it works, that's how it works. And if you ever want to get into woodworking, definitely something to keep in your collection. Thanks very much for checking out this video. Please, of course, hit that like button, subscribe button, bell notification, the usual work that everybody asks for. It really does make a difference for us, especially the small channels. And yeah, leave any comments below. Thanks again, and of course, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.